Thanks for checking out another sermon from the Internet's Church of Metal, Rockin' Metal Revival. You can download the entire show at rmrshow.com or check out this highlight from the latest RMR.
Will it make
because the way those deals work, most of them, and I don't know the internal workings of the KISS deal, but most of these deals, how they work, is that, traditionally when you put out a record, the record stores, whatever ones are left in the country, will buy the record, and if after 3 months they bought, say you bought 50 copies, and after 3 months you only sold 10. You could box up the other 40 and send them back and get credit. So you really can't get hurt by it. When you do these exclusive deals, it's a one-way delivery. So Walmart comes to KISS and says, we'll take 800,000 copies of your new record for our stores. We're going to give you $5 a copy, so here's your check for, I don't know, whatever the math is on that, $4 million, I have no idea. But here's your check. Check is cashed, the CDs get delivered, that's it. If Walmart only sells 400,000, guess who's on the hook for the other 4?
Walmart, yeah.
They don't go back.
Yeah.
And that's why Best Buy got crucified on the Guns N' Roses deal. Because they, same deal. They had to pre-purchase it, and I think that album ended up selling a couple 100,000 copies, but I think they bought probably close to 1 million. So they're on the hook for these records, and they can't do anything with them, and they got to find a way to sell them, and you can't melt them down and do anything with them.
There's a lot of can coasters on people's end tables, I think.
Yeah, and they can only hope that someday it'll pay off, and in that instance, maybe Axl goes out and does some dates, and maybe it pops somewhere down the line, or maybe over the years they can get rid of them, but so that's why it's so attractive for the artist, because once the artist delivers the record, they've done their part, they get paid, and it doesn't matter if they sell 2 copies or 2 million. Of course, the goal is you sell more than that, and then another order comes in for more. But you just don't know. So to say it's going to ship one thing or another would just all depend upon what Walmart wants to buy and what they think they're going to be able to carry.
Unbelievable. Hey, Eddie, we had a couple quick questions about what's going on in the metal world we want to get your opinion on. And the first one is about a year ago, we had Dan Nelson from Anthrax on here. And we were all fired up about this new worship music CD. Yep. Are we ever going to see that?
Not with Dan on it.
Are we ever going to see it with John Bush?
Well, the Anthrax is a huge question mark right now. The one thing that's not a question is who they want singing for him. And it's no question, it's Dan. It's John.
I think that was known all along.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. I mean, I think that there was a point where these guys were extremely excited about Dan being in the band. They picked him, they found him. They were there's a reason why he got the job, but clearly things unraveled very quickly on a personal level behind the scenes. They just bands relationships, some bands can function without people getting along, whether it be Poison or Motley or whoever. I mean, the stories are well documented, but in a case like this, it just got really ugly really quick behind the scenes. And I felt it and saw it firsthand at the last show he did with them, which was Rocklahoma this year. And I knew something was in the wind then, and kind of got the vibes that stuff was coming down with him. The bad side about it, and the Anthrax guys I go back with forever. Frankie Bell was one of my best friends, and Scott and Charlie I talk to all the time. The downside about that situation is that the one show I saw with Dan, which was at Rocklahoma, was phenomenal. He was great. Vocally he was great, performance-wise, and I told the band that night, and I told Dan that night. But I also quickly saw that things just weren't working off stage, and the last thing Anthrax wanted to do was part company with this guy because they had finished a record with him, and that's really expensive, obviously, and not what you want to do to promote a guy for a year and then all of a sudden pull the plug on him.
Yeah.
But it got ugly, and I'm not going to get into the he said, she said stuff, but I mean, there's obviously both sides have versions to the story, and bottom line is it's a shame that it blew up. And now Anthrax obviously wants Bush back in the band. and they've made that clear. Problem is that John's going to do a second show with them. He did one in Europe. He's going to do a second one in Japan next month. And the problem is that does John want to commit to Anthrax? I think any of the hard feelings are gone, but John's at a different point in his life. On a personal level, he has 2 kids, and he doesn't necessarily want to deal with being on the road or doesn't know yet if he wants to deal with being on the road for 200 shows a year. Doesn't know if he wants to be in the grind of, a working, touring, global rock band. So he's testing the waters and feeling it out. And the other little thing that a lot of people may not know about John Bush, which is kind of interesting, John is the voice of Burger King. He does voiceover work now.
Really?
And he is the voice of Burger King. So when you see a lot of Burger King commercials, the voiceover guy is John Bush. And I've had a couple experiences doing some smaller voiceover jobs, and they pay very well when you get them, and it's incredibly easy, incredibly good money. So you take that's to land a job like that, to be the voice of something, is the mother lode in the voiceover business. That's what everybody tries for. So when he has the Burger King deal and he's got 2 young kids, the idea of going out on the road is not as appealing to him. And I think that's what Anthrax is up against, trying to figure out which way he's going to go. That being said, John clearly still wants to do it because he's doing these 2 shows with Anthrax and he's done some Armored Saint stuff. So I hope they can find a balance that works for everybody because Anthrax is in a tough spot. And I think if they get him back on board, they'll probably re-record this album with John singing and go forward from there. But they're very much in limbo and very much at his mercy right now. They're at his mercy as to what he decides to do because if he doesn't want to get back on board, they're in a tough spot.
Cool. Say, is there any truth to about the Big Four maybe going on tour sometime?
I don't think so. I talked to Mustaine about it last night. He was on my Sirius XM show. He was also on the show a week ago. And I also talked to Kerry King. We shot something with Kerry that'll be in the upcoming season of that metal show, and I talked to Kerry about it. I don't see it happening at all for a lot of reasons. I think it's rumor. I think it's a nice idea, but I don't see it happening. I think there's way too many issues, way too much ego and politics. Who doesn't get along with who?
Right.
Mustaine and Slayer, Mustaine and Metallica. And at the end of the day, Metallica, and Mustaine even mentioned this to me too the other day, Metallica has so far eclipsed the other 3 bands in terms of mainstream awareness and what they draw and airplay, and
right.
Metallica is an arena, stadium act, whatever. The other 3 guys are not even close to that. So when you factor all that stuff into the equation, it's what's the upside for Metallica to do it?
There you are, another sermon from Rockin' Metal Revival. The RMR is a 3-hour hard rock heavy metal show that can be heard anytime at rmrshow.com.